Special City Council meeting of December 19th, 2022 is hereby called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin, Cummins,
Here.
McNally.
Here. We've got two presentations this evening, and I'm not seeing our auditor.
Oh,
Is
he's
he
right
up?
there.
Oh, he's there,
He's right
okay. Are we going to go straight into those, Ashley?
Yes.
Okay, then could the representative from Friedeveld please come forward?
Good evening. My name's Mike. I'm a manager with Friedeveld Hefner, and I did kind of supervised a majority of the field work out here for the audit. Before I get too much into it, I just want you to know we went over this whole entire report in deep detail with the audit review committee, and that was when we had a draft of it, and we answered a lot of questions there, and we were agreed on everything at the end of that meeting. Overall, the audit process went very well this year, especially considering all the staff turnover that we had and that you guys had here. To start going through the report, on page 1, I don't know if you guys have a report in front of you or not, but I just want to point out that's the audit report. It does have a new format compared to last year. You'll see the opinion is now at the top, and that's a good, clean audit opinion. That is what you're looking for when you have an audit. The next item I wanted to point out is page 5 is where management's discussion and analysis starts. I'm not going to go through this at all. It's just a good summary if you're interested in reading that at all. And on page 13, this is where the government-wide financial statements start, and there's a little slide up there to show a couple highlights on there. The things I wanted to point out on here is that this is a little bit different than the information you typically see on a monthly basis. It has a more long-term outlook. You'll notice there's capital assets on here and your pension and your OPEB, so that results in some of the expenses and revenues being a little bit different here than on the data you normally see. And then one other thing to point out is that your unrestricted net position here has been decreasing over the past few years, so just something to be aware of. On page 16, this is the governmental funds balance sheet, and if we can go to the next slide, this is going back to that previous page, net position of your business activities. Same kind of situation there. It's slowly been declining over the last few years. If you go to the next slide. So right here, you'll see your general fund balances. It had a rough year there, and then it's kind of creeping its way back up. Something to keep an eye on is your non-major funds have been declining in fund balance, and there's a little bit more detail on that in the future as well. The only big thing I wanted to point out on your governmental funds balance sheet is there's a line called unearned revenue about halfway through the page, about $1 million, and that represents mostly your unused portion of the ARPA funds that you have left. There was some questions on the fund balance detail on this page. So there's $2.8 million. You'll see that's called budget stabilization, and we have that carried forward. It's from an old policy for budget stabilization, but all it is 20% of your upcoming fiscal year's budgeted expenditures. And I don't have the policy for that. We'd have to go digging through some files. And then the future year's expenditures, that's the budgeted deficit for this upcoming fiscal year, fiscal 23 that we're in now. Moving forward, you'll see on page 18, this is the governmental funds income statement. This is more in line with what you typically see every month. And this goes to the next slide here. So you'll see expenditures pretty much stay about the same. You'll notice public safety increases about every year. And that little spike in the other category in 2020, that was from a big drain project. So those kind of leveled back out after that. And I did want to point out fund balance in the general fund increased $805,000 this year. On page 20, I think you can go to the next slide here. This is where the proprietary funds start. And this is their balance sheet. You'll see Board of Light and Power, sewer, water, and the non-major funds here. So this slide has a little bit of detail on the sewer fund specifically, and you'll see it generally does pretty well. It always, or typically has an increase in its net position, so that's good. And on the next slide, you'll see the water fund is typically in the same spot and had an increase this year as well. In the light and power, I'm not going to go into much detail because that's a whole separate audit that we do that's been presented. But the big amount there's a $7.5 million expenditure for asset retirement, and that was a change in the estimate to clean up the old power plant this year, but a very big expense there. On page 36, there's a couple footnotes I want to point out. The first one is deficit net position. That's footnote 2, as we discussed already, and we saw on the statements there. And then footnote 3, which starts on page 36 and continues on 37, you'll see all of your budget overages for the year. There's a list of about 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there. So just be aware that those are there. On page 39, that's where the capital asset footnote starts. It's footnote 5, and that continues on the next page, but just a lot of big numbers there. You'll certainly want to look that over and know what's going on with that note. And on page 43, this is part of the long-term debt footnote. I wanted to point out that BLP paid off one bond for about $13 million, and they issued a new bond for about $25 million, so you'll see that activity there. On page 45 is when the pension and OPEB plan footnotes start. A lot of detail in there that I'm not going to cover. Page 61, you'll see there's a contingency footnote. It's footnote 13, and that is just stating that there's going to be some potential costs related to the old landfill, and it's not in the financial statements because there's simply no way to reasonably estimate that amount at this point in time, but be aware that that's out there. And on the next page, 62, you'll see the asset retirement footnote, and that's tied in with BLP's cleanup of the old power plant. The next section you'll see is required supplementary information. I'm not going to go over this in any detail at all, but just know that it includes budget to actual statements and a lot of pension and other post-employment benefit plan information. Next section after that, it's roughly on page 72, 73, but that's where your combining statements are. It's got the non-major funds, your component unit information, and internal service funds there. And that was all I am going over. Does anybody have any questions?
Karen, got anything?
Sure, yeah. Just, I wanted to clarify on page 37 where the variance to budget overages on the expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
All of those except for legal services were within 10%, is that correct?
I did not calculate it. It appears so with a brief look. Maybe the DPW Duncan Woods might be a little more than 10%. But the ones over 10%, I believe, are reported to the state.
Oh, right, the Duncan Woods, okay. The other thing, I don't know if this is a question for Emily, on page 45, it said that the pension was closed to new employees effective July 1. Is that correct? Was it closed to new employees on July 1, or was that October 1? I don't remember what finally transpired there. I know we...
Emily Green, Finance Director. New employees, the plan was closed to new employees, new hires on July 1st.
Okay.
The conversion date was October 1st.
Okay, so anyone who was hired after July 1st went immediately to the defined contribution, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I know we only elected to do it in late June, we approved it, so I wasn't sure we actually made the flip that soon, so I just wanted to, check, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I guess this is just more of a comment, and it's related to the audit, but it's actually related to last year's audit.
Okay.
In last year's audit, there was sort of some of the regular discussions that took place in the, we had a clean audit last year as well, as you know, but there was a recommendation around federal written procedures, some of which were found and some that we couldn't find. And I know this year our staff has had significant turnover and a lot of issues, so I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't get to that. I just wanted to make a notation that going forward in this next fiscal year, it'd be nice to sort of button that up as well.
Yep, we didn't look at it this year because there wasn't a single audit done.
Yeah.
So your federal expenditures were very small.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's no worry. It's just more of a, heads up for next year if we didn't.
There's a good chance with the ARPA funding that there will be one probably fiscal year '23, possibly 2024.
Okay, so it's a great opportunity to.
And the federal written procedures are done.
Yeah. Oh, you got it done? Great job, Emily. Thank you. I looked at that and I thought, they probably didn't have a chance. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure we buttoned that up. I guess, just a comment. I wanted to say thank you to our auditors for all the support in this year's transition. As you noted, we had a significant amount of turnover and really appreciated all the support that you provided Emily and our financial team. And I'd also just like to do a call out for our audit review committee. In municipal government, as you know, it's critical that we have people on an audit review committee that have, because of those oversight responsibilities, have some of the capabilities and the collective knowledge and experience in accounting, auditing, and financial reporting. And we here in Grand Haven are very lucky to have the chair of the audit review committee, Steve Harvey, Rosemary Zink, and Dave Davis, right? Is that right? Okay. On there because they're exceptionally well qualified. So I just want to do a shout out to our committee for their volunteering their time for this important responsibility. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ryan?
Just a question on, so the ARPA funds, I think that went into like our brownfield fund. So I guess put simply, my question is, did the surplus that we ended up having at the end of the year, was that strictly because of, hey, revenues came in greater than expenses, or did us receiving ARPA funds cause us to have, a nice surplus?
I'm not sure it caused a surplus. Are you referring to the deferred revenue in the general fund?
Our general fund increased its fund balance.
Yes.
$800,000. So was that because of
No.
ARPA dollars?
No,
That
the
was
ARPA
strictly
revenue is unearned revenue, so it didn't hit the bottom line at all this year.
Okay.
And Ryan, a big part of that was the LCSA funding that we received in May. That was over
Stabilization.
$450,000. We can't count on that because we don't know what that amount is going to be, so we don't budget for it. An additional $450,000 in the, on the bottom line in May is very helpful.
Yeah, well,
Emily,
for sure.
what is that money? I saw that on the report, and I asked Ashley this morning, you know what that is? What is that money? What's its purpose? And is it state or federal money?
So it's the local stabilization, and it used to be personal property tax. And so it's the state's portion of that.
So does that come directly to us, or does it go through, the state collects it and then sends us a portion?
Correct, we get like a revenue.
And we
it
never
comes in
know how much
October,
it will be.
And then in May.
And the state exempted, like doubled the exemption, I think, last year on that as well. So all the municipalities were saying they thought there would be a significant downturn. So it sounds like even so, we got more money out of it.
Correct, we'll take it.
We'll take it. Thank you. Ryan, anything else?
Nope.
Nope. Mike?
I just want to echo what Karen said about our fine people that are on our committee. I mean, Ms. Vink and all of them, they're just, when it comes to government financing, they are very well up on it, and we're very fortunate to have a great audit committee. I sit on it with them, I'm just amazed at some of the questions they have and how they go through this whole budget. And I want to say thank you guys for all your hard work and putting up with it, all the changes that we had. It was, you know, it was just a staff changeover so much and that, and working through it. I know it took a little longer than what you anticipated, if I remember correctly, because of the changeovers and that, but it seemed to work out very good, and we have such a great staff. They work very well with you. Everything seemed to be very good. And I'm glad to see that we've had some increases in our fund balance and our general fund, and a lot of everything's gone up. It's on the positive side. We're moving in the right direction. So I know looks like it's coming down, but the thing is, we are heading in the right direction. So it's looking good. It's pretty positive. I mean, when you see general fund increase the fund balance by 805,000 up to 5 million, yeah, it's quite a bit of increase. It's more than what, you know, pretty large.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you all and everything, and everybody on the committee and all of us. I tell you, it worked out very well.
One other thing, Mayor, if I could, that I forgot to mention too, I think some community members might have caught that, you know, obviously our net position has, you know, slowly, you know, decreased over time, but I think it was noted that a large part of that was because of the pension issue,
Yes.
right? So we did a lot of work this year to address that, hopefully stabilize that, and hopefully address that issue going forward, but that's why it was such a significant issue. So, I mean, I think we had net position change of almost $3 million. The wrong direction, but I think over time we'll see that improve.
Mm-hmm.
We've taken the first step, Brian.
Yes, the first step, that's right, yeah.
Anything further? Mike, thank you very much for your efforts, for your firm's efforts, and I would like certainly to thank you and the Audit Review Committee, but I also want to thank our very capable finance staff, because in the Audit Review Committee meeting, in our brief, what we heard was they were exceptionally helpful and knowledgeable about where the information needed was to be found, and very productive in that. And they were all in new roles. Emily particularly, and Zach, I would say, really shone, and I appreciate that. So thanks very much for your time.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, rolling right along.
Good evening, Your Honor. Derek Gatis, Public Works Director, fellow council. I want to give you an update tonight about our asset management plan. We're about a year into what the council awarded a $338,000 contract to Abamars to help us understand, evaluate scientifically the condition of every asset in the city as far as it pertains to infrastructure. So roads, water, sewer, storm. Abamars has been partnering with us for the last year. We've been meeting bi-weekly to make sure this continues to go forward and follows through with it. It's a big step in the city's infrastructure. It was a big step to award the contract and see that forethought of we need to do this in order to understand exactly where we're at. Prior to this, it was all done by anecdotal evidence of city staff and what the conditions we could see. A lot of information that wasn't necessarily written down. Just over the decades, our infrastructure is 100 years old in some instances. So they don't have the same record keeping today as we did back in 1920. So. To help us get there, most municipalities have gone through this over the last decade, and some are still going through it. We'll cover some of that, but I just want a brief update on where we're at to date. It's a 3-year process to inventory everything we have, over 60 miles of roads and 40 miles of storm sewer, another 60 miles of sanitary sewer, 75 miles of water main, and we have over 4,700 water service lines. As you know, we're in the midst of replacing all the lead service lines, which is only a portion of those. But you know, it identifies just our little 6.2 square mile city has a lot of infrastructure we need to manage. It was a couple years ago that I put together some information with the help of AdMarsh to understand what kind of scope that is. When you look at those numbers, 40 miles of sewer, what is that? We all can drive 40 miles down the road. We do it probably regularly, but what does that really entail? What is the cost of that? So we use some really generic numbers to understand the value of that. What does 40 miles of sewer really mean? What is 60 miles of roads? What does that cost? And we came up with just shy of, or well over $500 million, just shy of 600 million in today's assets value. So if we were to build this city all over again, that's the kind of money we're talking about. So we look at that grand scale and go, that's our house, that's what we need to maintain. When we talk about $3 or $5 million investments every day, it's literally a very small portion of our infrastructure. So some of the completed items we've done to date, we renumbered every asset in the city. And we look about that, we talk about that idea like a water main pipe from one intersection to the next, or a road section, or a sanitary sewer from manhole to manhole. We looked at every single one of them and renumbered them. So everybody's got a unique number. So think about us as citizens. We all have Social Security numbers, and in general, that populates our entire population. We need to do that with our actual infrastructure. So every water service, every sewer lateral, every sewer and water main, and then road section is done by intersection to intersection. So we have some that are really small, 400 feet between intersections, and some are larger. But we renumbered all those, summarized all the missing stuff inside, so it's not as accurate as our GPS would be, or we would like. We'll do that over time, but at least we have something that's there that we can count on. Okay. We've inspected all 15 lift stations the city has. We've reviewed and scanned all the scanned and compiled utility record drawings. So, today Fulton Street, for instance, we just reconstructed. There's so much data there. We know exactly where every foot and inch of infrastructure is. Well, that wasn't what the case was, 40 or 100 years ago. So the information we do have, we've made sure we preserve that and use that information to fill out those voids. Next one. So we still got some work in progress. We still have some investigations in our sanitary and storm sewer. We still have some more PACER rating analysis to do. Our PACER ratings are our pavement and surface evaluation ratings, and they're actually done through our contract with Wimser-Dick. They come in and they just did them this year. So we got all of our roads re-rated, and AdMarsh is in the midst of going through all those. As you can see, there's Fulton Street pre-construction and Fulton Street post-construction.
Fulton Street post-construction is quite beautiful,
Yes.
I'm just going to say.
Yes, and you just see the difference in that surface rating. So, getting up-to-date ratings will help us in all of that. All right. So we also have a capital improvement plan. We have one in the budget that's a 6-year, and we have one just overall that isn't numerically numbered. And that's what we've been going out from for years. That was put together a decade or two ago about what is our real needs, whether we reconstruct this road or that road. And that was all the anecdotal evidence. And none of that's going away. We're just utilizing some scientific methods with the data that we're gathering to make sure that that's valid. So when I tell you we need to do Fulton Street in 2025 on the west side of town, 1st Street to 5th Street, that information, and don't get me wrong, we probably all can drive that road and know that needs to be reconstructed. And the utilities underground, our utility guys can tell you that needs to be reconstructed. But what is more important? Is it that road, or is it there a road somewhere else? So we're looking through that capital plan and making sure, and we're going to come up with a new capital plan at the end of this. But we're integrating that, and then of course our water service line investigation. So the state's requiring us to investigate and verify our inventory of materials. We're doing lead service line replacements right now, but those are the ones that we think we know where they're at. This is going to verify scientifically where exactly all that our information is correct. So all the information we have, we're going to go investigate 350 water services and verify those. And so those parcels you see in that map there are the random parcels, my house included. I was part of that. And there's some of them that we've already done just by random, and there's some of them, a lot of them that we'll do. So we'll be verifying those over the next year or so as part of that work. And then, of course, now we're going to get into the analyzation and complete assessments of both sanitary and storm. We've got a lot of work to do to create that 5 and 20-year plan. And that, well, if, for instance, this picture here shows a 1965 drawing that is very helpful to us, because whatever information we can have, we should be able to utilize. And previously, that was in paper in a drawer in the second floor of the Public Works garage. Now we're going to make sure that information is at the fingertips of our employees that are out there and maintaining these assets.
And
One
can
more.
do they have the authority or the ability to modify what's in there when they do work? Is that something they do, Derek?
Yeah, so we do that back in the office at the end of the day. So if we were to replace, for instance, a 50-foot piece of sanitary sewer and it was clay tile that failed today, we'd go back in. Typically, we do it over the winter time. We're so busy in the summer, spring, summer, and fall that we'll save that drawing and that documentation, and then in the winter time, we'll update all of our records. So yes, our guys do that. That's what helps us maintain and know what's in the ground. So I want to bring up the recent drinking water asset management grant that we got. It was $582,000. You guys received that and by resolution in October. Our original asset management plan with Avamars was 338. So you're like, well, what are these numbers? How do they coincide? So this is just drinking water, and of the 338,000 we contracted with Avamars earlier this year, 113,000 plus was just for the drinking water portion. So since we got this grant, which we applied for years ago, we were not selected. There was additional funding that came through, and then we were selected. The $580,000 in grant money will help us do more than this asset management plan was going to do. So that's the big disparity. Why are we 113 to 500? Well, we're going to have to do the rest of that work in-house, because that work is still required by the state for us to inventory and verify all of our information. So in a nutshell, there's those big differences. Now, of the 580,000, some of that is actually going to get reimbursed by from city staff time. So we're just going to get a check for the work we've done or will do, and you can anticipate a new contract with Avamars for $224,000. So about a net of about 110 back to Avamars of the 580,000. We'll have a contractor, we'll end up bidding out some of that work, so a contractor does some work, and then again, the balance is going to go back into our water fund because it was actually city staff time. So all those circles are drawing and interacting with us, and it's all part of the overall project that is actually ahead of schedule, and it's really by Avamars' efforts. In the summertime, we had a lot of things going on this summer with the utilities. We weren't able to spend as much staff time internally, but now as the fall came on and the winter comes on, our utility guys can spend more time, updating that stuff. So, but we're ahead of schedule by about 6 months, so that's a good thing. So we think that we're going to have something solid by the end of 2023 instead of about mid-2024. So.
Okay, I'm guessing there may be some questions, and I see our time has expired. So I'm going to ask you, Derek, if you don't mind, to hang tight, and we'll get the regular meeting started, and we'll bring you back. Is that okay? All right, thank you. All right, so I'm going to adjourn the special meeting. Scott, are we good to go? Okay.
He's still in.
And I'm going to call to order the regular city council meeting for the city of Grand Haven on December 19th, 2022. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Lowe,
Here.
McLaughlin, Cummins,
Here?
McNally.
Here. We don't have anyone scheduled for an invocation this evening, and I know most of us are focused on the upcoming Christmas season, but I thought it worth mentioning that sunset yesterday marked the beginning of the Feast of Hanukkah, and in the interest of including other faith traditions in our meetings, I did a little reading and I thought I would share. The Jewish holiday of Hanukkah, or dedication, commemorates the recovery of Jerusalem and subsequent restoration of Jewish worship at the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 164 BC, after Judah Maccabee removed all of the statues depicting Greek gods and goddesses and purified the temple. Jews rebelled against the Greeks for denying them the right to freely practice Judaism. The Greeks had seized their temple in Jerusalem and demanded Jews pray to Greek gods. Judah Maccabee led an army that defeated the Greeks and took back the temple and their city. When it came time to rededicate the temple after winning it back, the Maccabees found only enough oil to light their lamps for one night. In what became known as the miracle of Hanukkah, the oil somehow lasted long enough for the lamp to burn 8 days and 8 nights. Nearly 2,200 years later, observance of Hanukkah includes lighting a menorah, a candelabra with 9 candles. 8 of the candles represent the 8 days and 8 nights of Hanukkah, while the 9th candle, usually in the middle and set a little higher, is lit first and used to light the others. Hanukkah is a story of the Jewish fight for religious freedom. We might not all share the same faith traditions, but we can and should respect others' right to worship as they choose. If you're teaching your kids about holiday traditions other than your own, this is an excellent opportunity to explain Hanukkah and that freedom of religion has long been a core value of our republic. As for me and mine, I wish you all a blessed and Merry Christmas and a happy, safe, and healthy New Year. And would everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we've got a new appointment to boards and commissions on the agenda. I would entertain a motion for the nomination of Bruce Baker, Parks and Recreation Board, for a term expiring June 30th, 2027.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
I think Bruce will do a fine job. He's been there before, and he's been a chairman there on that board also before, and he takes our parks very seriously.
He's a real advocate for the parks.
Oh, he most certainly is.
Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent and regular agendas. Are there any issues there, guys?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Cummins,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. We're going to continue, first call to the audience, pardon me. One of 2 opportunities. Members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3285. If it continues ringing, please remain on the line until your turn. We would take all callers. Is there anyone who'd like to address council?
Good evening. Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. I'd like to first congratulate both the city and BLP on having clean audits. I know one of the problems in getting clean audits was the snowmelt system. And as it turned out, through the committee agreement, the BLP is paying 25%, or I shouldn't say the BLP is paying it, the ratepayer is paying it. And I want to read something because I'm disappointed. When I attended the BLP meeting, what I heard or understood was that there was going to be an extra charge put on either our meters or electricity, but there was going to be absolutely no breakout listing it. And I don't think that's what transparency is. I think transparency is being open and showing all these type of items. Instead, it appears that the $260,000 that's going to go to the ratepayers, which is going to be $12.75 a piece, is sort of just going to be hidden. And that doesn't sit well with me. And so I wrote email to you, and since our policy now is that nothing really gets recorded unless, you know, there's some document, I'm going to read it, and it's already been submitted, but I'll submit it again in paper. BLP and city officials, I've heard you all tout your transparency many times during the past few years, and once again I find it lacking. It seems the current plan is for BLP's 25% contribution to the snowmelt boilers is to be paid by the electricity tax ratepayers in Grand Haven, Ferrysburg, Grand Haven Township, Spring Lake Township, and Robinson Township by including it in a higher meter charge or higher electricity rate without showing it as a line item with a description for the new snowmelt charge. I, as a ratepayer and resident of Grand Haven, want to know and have the right to know what I'm paying for on my BLP electricity bill. Be honest and don't try to hide the upcoming snowmelt surcharge. You need to own it. And the BLP ratepayers need to pay it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Come on up.
My name is Dale Fry. I live on Columbus Street, and I was just saying that to react to what the gentleman just said. I would basically agree with that, but I think that when the snowmelt was approved, as much as it may have been approved by people, they thought it would be charged to downtown for the benefit of downtown. And I don't think they expected to pay a tax for it. And to have the power company say, we were in this adventure, we screwed up, it's our fault as a power company, so we're going to charge everybody in Grand Haven and some people across the river maybe to pay for our screw up. Doesn't sound that that's a good thing. Also, I was thinking that a number of financial experts say that retail will in a large degree fail through the end of 23. There will be many failures and many shops closing. If that happens to a large degree downtown, then where is the money going to come from to pay for snow melt? And should we be careful that if we screw around here, people may abandon some of those buildings and therefore sell them off at a cheaper rate than we want them to, causing the new owners to be able to request a lowering of their tax. Because if they buy the building at half the price that we'd expect, they should pay half the property tax. We could get into some kind of problem there if we don't keep our eyes open. But anyway, I don't like paying for the downtown people because, you know, they don't give me any say. I mean, if I buy Campbell stock, I get a proxy. I can at least have an influence. But downtown, they take my money and, you know, I don't even get a proxy, let alone any input. So anyway, that's what I was thinking.
Thank you, sir.
Jerry McCaleb, 1235 Slayton. I want to address the snowmelt issue also. When Sims 2 was retired, two things happened. For the first time in over 100 years, Grand Haven no longer produced power and the snowmelt system lost its energy source. Many people wanted Grand Haven to continue producing power, and we knew the downtown couldn't afford to run snowmelt on its own. So council wanted the BLP to be in the power generation business on the Sims site, which also provided heat to the snowmelt. We were told the BLP cannot be in the snowmelt business unless it is part of its operation. And so the BLP, with council direction, came up with the generation on the island, with which would include boilers for snowmelt for the BLP facility and provide for the downtown. The generation capability would sell power to the grid when the price made it profitable, and so help it pay for itself. The city was told if the facility is not built, the BLP has no need for these boilers and the city will have to pay for them. So here we are, the facility plan was scrapped, and now these boilers need to be paid for, and this deal has been struck to pawn off $250,000 on the ratepayers of the BLP. Well, I object. The item on the agenda was almost zero information as to the impact of this deal. The decision here impacts all BLP customers. Grand Haven Township customers will pay approximately $54,000. The Spring Lake Township will pay almost $30,000, and the city of Ferrisburg pays $34,000. None of these people have a word to say about any of this. The city attorney, Mr. Bolche, says that the BLP can contribute because it's for the welfare of the city and the BLP benefits from that welfare. If that is the bar that must be crossed, what else that the city wants to do can the BLP pay for? How about streets? How about a new fire truck? How about the roof on my house? Where does the benefit to the BLP end? I have asked this before and I will ask again. How can one attorney represent the utility, the city, several surrounding townships, and do an adequate job for all of these entities with interests that are at odds with one another? I appreciate BLP Board Chair Mike Westbrook voting no on this deal. I'm surprised that Director Andrea Hendrick, who says she's always looking out for the interests of the ratepayers, voted yes on this item, which does not benefit BLP customers. It only benefits the city of Grand Haven. I encourage City Council to vote no and own up to its obligation to pay for these boilers that they commissioned the BLP to buy, and since the BLP cannot use them, it's the city's obligation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else? Derek, you're up.
Continuation of the work
This is
session.
the continuation of the work session. Thank you, Mike. Might want to introduce yourself again, Derek,
Yes.
just in case somebody just
Derek
tuned in.
Gatis, Public Works Director for the city. All right, we're at the conclusion of my quick presentation about asset management. So some of the real benefits that come from this asset management plan, and I think we've benefited from this over the last decade or two, especially under Pat's realm, is always having a project shelf ready, ready to go for grants. Our communities always take care of that, or take opportunity of that. So we'll have those opportunities with those projects that this will identify. It'll also give us the opportunity to implement a dig once philosophy, which we try anyways, but it'll help us be able to do it much more efficiently, if you will.
Okay, I missed that, Derek. To implement what?
A dig once philosophy.
Got it.
So when we did Fulton Street recently in the first phase and second phase, we spent a lot of effort coordinating with all the different utilities that might be in there. So this will help us site see that, and we've run into a couple of those issues over the last 6 years since I've been here with Michigan Gas and some of their requirements. And how they have to replace their mains. But we've worked it out, we've figured it out, but it really helps us solidify that. And one of the last things, maintenance and replacement, but also benefiting, documenting our institutional knowledge. Again, a lot of those as-builts and documents we had were very vague, and our guys have a lot of information that we need to pass down to the next generation. So my philosophy as a leader is that this information isn't ours. We're entrusted with that during our time here as public servants, and we need to pass that on to the future, not only Public Works workers, but the residents of the city. So a lot of benefit with asset management. It'll take us into the next 50 or 100 years of infrastructure. So that's all I had. Just want to give you a quick update. If anybody has any questions, by all means.
Oh, I'll just
I'm gonna
say,
start with Mike.
yeah, over the years since I've been here, we've been doing projects like this, and big projects. And we started out first just telling like the gas company and everybody else that we're gonna be tearing up Sheldon Street. We want you to get in and get all your infrastructure in. And they had to get their budgets and everything set to go with us, because we didn't want them digging our street up. Once we put it in, we don't want them going back in and tearing it all up again. Now, through the time and process that we've been doing, and also with this asset management, is that now we'll be able to coordinate with them, and they'll be able to put their money ahead of time and plan on doing something with us. If we have a project going forward, they'll be able to see that, and they'll be able to put their efforts along with us, instead of being at the last minute coming in. From what I've seen over the years, what we've done is phenomenal, what we've got done in this town. When I first got on, we needed a lot of work, and the council that I was with at the very first there, we looked at that and said, yes, we need to get our infrastructure in order, because a lot of things were getting to be where they're aged and failing. By having a good asset management going forward now, we can plan and we can move forward and go for dollars, and always having one on the shelf. If you got one ready to go, I've seen it happen many a times for us where there was X amount of dollars out there and other communities couldn't use it, so it comes back into the program, and we were able to say, hey, we can snatch onto this and we can do it, and we got it. So thank you for all that hard work, and I think this is going to be great for us going forward.
Ryan?
I was supposed to say great work. I was one that was a little skeptical at first about the cost, but as on the other side of the coin now, as a staff member, every day literally in a community that is pulling our hair out trying to figure out where certain utilities are, and folks are asking us, and I'm like, I don't know, it's been there for years, and we don't have as-built, and we don't have it on a GIS map. How valuable the information and tools are already, but updating that information and having it going forward is going to be critical. So thank you for your work.
Karen?
Yeah, I just wanted to commend you and the prior council for having the, vision. It's not sexy work inventorying all of your infrastructure and conducting a baseline, of that condition, but it's so critical in order to prioritize what next and create the plan. So kudos to you and you for having that vision, bringing it to council, and for them for passing it. And I love the Dig One philosophy. That is also sort of a best practice and a great way to sort of least disruption, highest value. And so I really commend you for pushing forward on that and partnering and working with Michigan Gas and the BLP on things like that. So, yeah, well done.
Thank you.
I had one question, Derek, which is, we have inventoried things, and we will assess their condition. Do we also assign values to these things so that they are prioritized in terms of their importance because they serve larger numbers of people or things like that? Is there a value
There
associated with the inventory or the condition?
Great, that's a great question. Honestly, I mean, when I first started asset management about 12 years ago with that mindset, and actually went through one of these grants in our sewer system at my previous employer. So we think about just condition. What condition is it? Is it in? Our roof it's a 30-year roof, and it's 20 years in, so it's 1/3 of the life expectancy left. Well, it doesn't tell me that the roof on that is to just a residential structure that we could mitigate a leaky roof by putting in someone, let's say, in a hotel. What happens at a leaky roof is a school? What if it's a hospital? What if it's our emergency cooling center at Central Park Place, right? So the word that's used is criticality. And so while my neighborhood street might not be that critical, and maybe not yours, but there are some, like the one that serves this building and public safety and our schools and a dialysis facility. We look at all those, and so yes, we do. It is definitely weighted, not only the value or the size, how many people does it, serve. So we have some pretty big water and sewer mains in town, and those are critical because if that fails, it'll affect way more people. So definitely a criticality, and then size is another option that we put. So it's weighted. There's like 5 different areas that get weighted. So, but yes, for sure.
That answers my question. And I'd just like to echo the comments of the others about systematizing and using modern tools. I'm a kind of an old-fashioned person, and I'm not very technical, but I recognize the huge value that some of these new processes add to our ability to manage our resources. So thank you for taking it on. I know it might not seem sexy to Councilmember Lowe, but I'm guessing the engineers think this is the cat's meow. So
They're digging in hard.
For the
They're digging
record, I
hard.
did a lot of that kind of non-sexy work in my career, so.
Well, one thing that I didn't mention in this presentation is like Councilmember Cummins mentioned, sometimes we spend a lot of time figuring out what we got, because the into the ground or serving people, and it takes resources. It really does.
Yeah.
We get requests all the time for, well, when was this installed? When was it connected? What size is it? What material? And so hopefully when we're done, some of the new technology will allow us for each resident to go online, kind of like the county GIS system allows us to go and get general basic property information. We'll be able to supplement that with some utility information as well. So they can just go right online and get all the information right there. It's at their fingertips. It's for them to use. And we most of that stuff is for commercial and industrial. We get requests for that, but anybody would want to know that, have that information ready and available.
Okay.
So
Thank you very much.
You're
Derek.
welcome.
Thanks, very good work. Okay, we've moved on to the consent agenda. We have, I need a motion to, how about we have Maria read the consent agenda first?
A, approve the regular council meeting minutes of December 5. Approve the bills memo in the amount of $876,684.15. Approve and adopt a proclamation declaring April 28th, 2023 as Arbor Day in the city of Grand Haven. D, accept the Michigan Community Forestry Management Grant for Duncan Park in the amount of $5,190 with a matching amount of $5,302 to be reimbursed from the Duncan Park Preservation Fund held at the Grand Haven Area Community Foundation, and authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the necessary documents. E, approve a resolution to reallocate assets held at Municipal Employees Retirement System, MERS, from the Defined Benefit Division 02, Police Reserve, to the Defined Benefit Division 21, Public Safety Reserve, due to no remaining liability in Division 02.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as written?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Lowe,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Fritz,
No.
McNally.
Yes. Okay, new business? Would you read 12A in new business, please, Maria?
A, consideration by the City Council of a resolution to receive and place on file the annual financial reports for June 30th, 2022, as presented by Riedeveld Hefner CPAs. The Audit Review Committee recommends approval. The administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
A second?
Discussion? I think anybody who wasn't here for the special work session, we've got a clean audit. We had great work by our finance staff this year, by the auditors and by the Audit Review Committee. And think we'll have the clerk call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. New business item B, please, Maria?
Consideration by the City Council of a resolution to approve a special event request to hold a Grand Armory food truck event in up to 2 parking spaces in front of Grand Armory Brewing Company at 17 South 2nd Street on Friday, December 23, Monday, December 26th, and Tuesday, December 27th, from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. The administration recommends approval.
Okay, can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved?
Second?
Any discussion? I actually had something I wanted to say, which is, I think it's a great idea by Armory Brewing to bring in a food truck as a substitute for Dr. Rolf's when they're on Christmas break. And I appreciate that the proprietor, who was in the audience, is willing to step up and do that, and it will make sure there's food available, extra food options downtown during the holidays when there are a lot of people down there shopping, and food available adjacent to his establishment that serves alcohol, which I think is important. So I appreciate it very much, Ben, and thanks for doing that. Yep. Clerk, please call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. Oh, I wanted to say one more thing while you're here, which is I really have appreciated and this is to you and the other people in the Armory building, the ongoing masonry repairs that have been going on for the Armory building. That mason is doing a beautiful job, and particularly the arched entrance above the door looks excellent. And you're taking really good care of one of our historic buildings that's precious to this community, so thank you. Yep. Okay. Moving on. New business item C. Maria, would you please read the item?
Consideration by the City Council of a resolution to approve loan terms with the Board of Light and Power for snowmelt operating cost in the amount of $777,862.99, including 0% interest and monthly installments based on increases to the PSCA in excess of the base amount of the collected transfer fee. Base amount identified as $1.8 million as determined by staff. The administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved?
Second?
Is there a discussion?
Well, this is just basically for us to be paying the bill, as discussed earlier from people that were here in the audience, they were talking about the BLP and charging the ratepayers for it. They had an opportunity where they could have just said, you know, make that donation to our charter, they can do that. But they decided to end up charging their excess part of it over to the ratepayers. But this here is for us, and I'm full-heartedly going to vote for this one. It's really a good start for us. We have to pay the bill sooner or later, and it's nice that they did give us that amount. But
Okay.
too bad it has to move it on into the ratepayers.
Well, it moves to the ratepayers one way or the other, Mike. I mean, that is, when it comes from the BLP, the ratepayers fund it. Ryan, you got anything?
Yeah, I just want to, I was part of the Snowmelt Subcommittee, along with the mayor, Director Knupp, Jerry Witherall, Director Witherall, then Ashley and Dave, and we had a very lengthy meeting. I think we discussed a lot, but in the end, I appreciate Director Knupp and Director Witherall's compromise with us coming out of that meeting. I appreciated Mr. Witherall's kind of comments and statement that he made, kind of indicating that this was an opportunity for the BLP to support the economic development downtown.
Oh, yeah.
That Snowmelt is critical to attracting more retail and hospitality activity downtown during the coldest winter months of the year. And Secretary of City Attorney has previously advised us that if the BLP finds that there's a utility purpose in participating in that, supporting a vibrant downtown also increases business activity and you know, they're able to sell more electricity from that, that essentially they could find that there's a reason for them to participate. And so essentially their board has, majority of their board at least has found that. I appreciate the partnership and the compromise, and I hope that as we go forward, that we can continue down a path of coming together and solving problems. I do believe, and I said this previously, and I stand by that statement, I told them this during this meeting, that I do believe that we need a similar subcommittee to sit down with some snowmelt users or downtown development authority folks to have a discussion about them participating in some way in these costs as well. I think all of us need to have skin in the game on this. There was a heat source, it went away. So I appreciate the partnership with the BLP on this and solving this issue that's been out there for a significant period of time. So I hope this will pass this evening, and that we can work with our DDA folks to sort out some other pieces of it. But I appreciate that partnership across the board with the BLP, so thank you.
Amen.
Karen?
Yeah, I would agree with Mayor Pro Tem Cummins. I wanted to thank BLP Vice Chair Jerry Witherall and BLP Trustee Kurt Knopf for their leadership and working through a solution with the subcommittee to find a way for us to move forward on this. And the other comment I'll make is, you know, for folks to understand is that this is not the total cost of snowmelt by any stretch. This is for generators that, you know, largely for generators that were part of a contractual obligation that the BLP had to provide a heat source for us. Now, we as a city are culpable in the sense that even though we would not have selected those and put them way out on the island had we been buying them, knew we were going to use them, but we didn't know that back then, right? It was supposed to be a transition. We probably would have put them a lot closer to the source. But the way things panned out was that it was a transition between the coal and what the BLP had proposed, the gas peaker plant, which ultimately didn't go through. So we as city council do have some culpability in, you know, and are going to take hold of those generators. But there's, you know, what I would like all of our citizens to understand is that this part here was a pretty complex, and it was about largely the generators. There are ongoing costs that the merchants and the DDA, you know, pay over, you know, just you know, for that electricity generation, but for the snowmelt. So I am just grateful, though, that the spirit with which Vice Chair Jerry Wetherall and BLP Trustee Kurt Knopf came together with the committee to come up with a workable solution. So I thank them, and I thank the other trustees, Trustee Crum and Trustee Hendricks, for voting this through. Thank you.
I'm going to say a few words about this too. And the first thing I'd like to say is thank you to the Board of Light and Power for their perseverance in helping us sort out who bears the financial and operational responsibility for the snowmelt boilers, and also for their generosity and ingenuity in figuring out how to fix that responsibility in its rightful place with the City of Grand Haven without dealing us a crushing financial blow. This solution, which was devised by their general manager, Dave Walters, creates a manageable path to purchasing the boilers. The BLP will bear 1/4 of the cost and allow the city to pay off the rest over time, and we will use anticipated increases in the BLP's monthly transfers to us, which is an established payment under our charter, to make the payments. I consider the snowmelt system a community asset and a city responsibility. I understand that as it was originally designed, waste heat from the Sims plant would provide the circulating water that melted snow on downtown streets and sidewalks, but that was only ever a temporary system. All parties understood at the time that the Sims plant was reaching the end of its useful life and an alternative heat source for snowmelt would be needed eventually. There was never any agreement on how that problem would be addressed. With the BLP's help this week, we've reached such an agreement. The snowmelt system was a stretch goal for the city, frankly, and its continued operation will be expensive and require capital reinvestment from time to time. This system has little to do with running a public electric company, but it has much to do with maintaining downtown streets, sidewalks, and infrastructure, all of which are the city's responsibilities. This is not the end of the snowmelt financial discussions, but I hope it can be the end of the BLP and council pitted against one another on the issue, and will allow us to move forward. If the city wants to continue the snowmelt system into the indefinite future, which I support because I think it benefits the entire community, not just the downtown merchants, we're going to need to prioritize it and budget for it, or look for philanthropic support. In the meantime, I'm thankful to the BLP and especially to General Manager Dave Walters, who worked closely with our city manager Ashley Latch to reach this agreement, and I thank them for their generosity, flexibility, and creativity. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Cummins,
Yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. New business item D.
Consideration by the City Council of a resolution to lease office space at City Hall to Harbor Transit in the amount of $500 per month with annual CPI increases for a 3-year term and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary agreements. The administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
So moved?
Is there support?
Second?
Discussion?
Can you, I didn't see something in the packet on this, so can we get a little more detail on this? And
Yeah, I apologize. I noticed today, I think it might have been left out of the packet, but it is largely a very temporary agreement with just the finance department of Harbor Transit. They are actively working on relocating from their location out by our Public Works building into I believe, the township. So as they're looking to expand and move to that location, they're looking for, right now, their finance department is 3 to 4 people. Currently in Ferrysburg City Hall, running into some issues with their internet services and fiber and connections. So all of their services align with ours. So looking to just rent our office space upstairs next to our planner in our DDA office, where our housing department once was. Just the one office space with access to our conference room, and they're going to bring their own copier. So very minimally invasive, just their finance department on a temporary basis.
Anything else? Further discussion? Ashley, would you call the roll? I'm sorry, Maria, would you call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Cummins,
yes.
Lowe,
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right. Report by City Council. Mike, you want to start?
Sure, I'll do it. No, it doesn't matter to me. I attended the first annual, hopefully, at Bolt Park. It was a sing-along, caroling, and stuff like that. It was absolutely fantastic for the first-time event. I got to say thank you to the East Town Association over there for putting that on, and everybody, all the businesses that helped them get it going. It was a very good turnout, I thought. For the very first time, it was fantastic, and I myself, I like to sing, and I did have a good time. I had a fantastic time, but I had to leave. I was hoping that they turned the light on at 8 o'clock, but it was a little premature, but it worked out very well. They lit the tree, and the tree looks beautiful in there. I like that park. I go there for the concerts in the summer, so I'm glad we spent some money and some time in there and making it look presentable compared to what it was before and putting all that new concrete in there. But that was a great event. Hot chocolate was really good. I don't know, Ryan, you had some hot chocolate. It was really fantastic. It was really good hot chocolate, and candy cane was good, and people there was nice. But I also want to go and say thank you to everybody for this year. we've done a lot since we've been on council here this year. I want to say thank you to all you, my council members and that, for working hard on different things. And also I want to say thank you to the people of Grand Haven putting up all the things that we do all summer here. We have a lot of events that go on, which is really good. It showcases our town for what it is and makes us even more popular than what if you didn't do them. So I got to say thank you to everybody that's participated in all those things. I want to reach out and wish everybody happy holidays and a happy new year, and be safe. I know there's going to be some storms coming through. Drive safe. The business I'm in, I see a lot of crashes, so I hate to see anybody come down to my shop for something that happened. They could have avoided it. So please drive safe. Have a good holiday, and bless you all. Thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, I really want to echo a lot of that. Thank you to the East End Association, but really want to just kind of reflecting the last couple of days. We've had a lot of meetings this year, but we've I think accomplished a lot. It's easy sometimes to focus on sometimes on what may not be going perfectly, but there's so many great things happening in this community. We've accomplished a lot of fantastic things this year. Our staff is, we've lost some great people, but we've gained a lot of great people. We have various people in new roles who have stepped up, and it's really impressive to see the resiliency that our staff has shown. And so I'm extremely grateful for their continued work every day through really challenging times. We tackled some really big issues, the pension issue being the biggest, and everybody from non-union to all of our unions, and getting agreements done and getting that issue kind of addressed. We still have work to do, but addressed in large part. Wasn't easy. We have brought a new city manager on board, a new clerk, finance director. We have a lot of new faces, but we have very dedicated staff, and I'm grateful for all of you and really appreciate the work that you do and for being here and working hard for us every day. But thank you to my fellow council members for all of your hard work this year. So we've spent a lot of hours debating a lot of issues, and haven't always agreed on everything, but we've, I think, had the discussions. Mayor, I always tell her this, but I want to say this publicly, and kudos to you. There's never been a meeting where any of us have gone away not feeling like we were able to at least speak our piece, debate the issue, and then let the chips fall, where they may ultimately. And I really appreciate that leadership out of you, and grateful for what we've accomplished, and look forward to next year. So, thank you.
Karen?
So I want to echo what both Councilor Fritz and Mayor Pro Tem Cummins said. This has been a really huge year, and what I think of is I'm very thankful for our city staff. I so agree. We've really, you guys are amazing, all that you do. As I looked back, I tried to look at the calendar, and I realized I counted 40 meetings, something like 40 meetings. I could have been off by one or two, meaning I understated them. It could have been 42. And that means all the preparation that you go through to put together, these meetings. And we've had a lot of debates here. But the interesting thing is a large part of what we pass is very important stuff that you have in the consent agenda, and we're in full agreement on here. I think we sit here and talk and spend the time on the issues that really matter to all of you in the community to make sure both sides are represented and that we're making the best possible decision. So anyway, I'm grateful for all of you and doing all of your hard work to make sure that we can kind of come to a decision, in a balanced way. So I appreciate all you do. And I want to say Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of you, all of the staff, all of our, and all of our citizens and residents. Thanks.
I don't have much. I'd like to piggyback on what Councilmember Fritz said and say, if you're out in your car, especially if it's snowing, put your seatbelt on. I don't mind that Mike gets the business, but I want to make sure everybody walks out of the car. Thank you to everyone for coming out, and thanks to a great staff for the work they do. And I'm going to turn it over to Ashley.
And don't forget to shop Grand Haven for Christmas.
Just a quick reminder, because it's the last meeting of the year, we will have, as usual, our New Year's Eve ball drop. That takes place on December 31st at the corner of First and Washington, right downtown. And there's an excellent firework display right at midnight. The ball will drop. We'll start playing music a little early as usual, get everybody in the spirit. But just wanted to, again, publicly acknowledge all of the sponsors that do contribute financially up there listed to make that fireworks show happen. And then last but not least, there are cookies in the hallway, so please take some on your way out. We usually do cookies with council the last meeting of the year.
Okay, I'm gonna, at this point, do the second call to the audience. Members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council are asked to provide their name and address and will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, but will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to may call in at 616-935-3285. If it continues ringing, please remain on the line until your turn. We'll take all callers. Would anyone like to address council?
Good evening again. Jim Hagan, 400 Lake. At last council meeting, I spoke about fiscal responsibility and looking at potential revenue from other sources, parking, et cetera, et cetera. One of the items I talked about also was the cup sticker fees. And I think getting back to fiscal responsibility, I think one thing we have to do is look at comparables. Look what other cities are doing around us. I think we've got maybe too much pride in that we can do it all ourselves, and maybe we always can do it the best. But I'm going to read this because I want it included in the notes, and I understand we have to do this now to get things included in the notes. This is on what our neighboring city, Muskegon, is doing on cup sticker fees. The linked MLive article states that the city of Muskegon receives an average of 60 cents per cup sold in the social district to cover costs associated with the district. Quote follows, "The downtown social district was established in September 2020. During the first year of operations, 123,000 drinks were sold," Alexander said. That amounted to 73,000 in revenues, with an average price per cup of 60 cents that is paid to the city of Muskegon. Establishments purchase cups or cup stickers from the city, which uses the revenues for social district maintenance as providing signs, trash receptacles. And I'm just going to add, I think this also could apply to snow melt, both the gas charges and possibly even the capital charges. I really wish we would have looked at it, but let's look at it. I know, Ryan, you mentioned there's going to be some discussions. Please do this, discuss it. I think it's an excellent opportunity for them to help offset some of our costs. I'm just going to continue with the article now. The city is not allowed to make a profit on the social district under Michigan Liquor Control Commission rules, Alexander said. The commission agreed on Tuesday, December 14th, this is last year, to increase the cost of stickers to 75 cents each. That will increase revenues to an estimated $92,250, which will help defray social district costs during special events, including maintenance, street closings, and for police and fire expenses, Alexander said. And my last sentence is Grand Haven should be doing the same. Let's have this item up for discussion in an upcoming city council agenda. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
I'd just like to make a suggestion that people who know about this subject should think about this. If I go in the Health Hut, I have a lot of problem parking. And I noticed that one of our favorite places, restaurant places, for breakfast is right across the street. And mostly they're limited by how many people are willing to stand outside in the street, but they're also limited by the parking lot across from them. And then there's a restaurant on the corner, which we hope would be prosperous. You have a parking space behind the Health Hut. I think one of those could be 2 stories of a parking garage. Leave the bottom free, and then if you go up the ramp to park above it because you were too late and you couldn't park in the free spaces, then you pay a nominal amount. And that would also move parking closer to downtown, because right now, if you either park in downtown or you're out of luck. and I do a fair amount of business with UPS, and I have been parking sometimes at the abandoned credit union or right across from Lucy's, but the attorneys, their friends, and other shoppers take up that lot. You know, that's right next to the attorney's office there, right across from Lucy. So I don't know what we can do downtown, and whatever we do downtown, a lot of people are going to be unhappy because they've already discussed that. But I just want you to consider whether you could put parking in that area, you know, near the health hut, and therefore enhance the 7th Street corridor. And so if anybody knows somebody who has the talent to look into that and the experience, you know, maybe they could do so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike?
Good evening, Mike Westbrook, 423 Lafayette, Chairman of the Board of Light and Power. As you know, I was the lone dissenting voice on the snow melt issue this week, and I didn't want to come in here tonight and say much more other than we accomplished something. I mean, and this feels good. I'm not sure if it's the holiday spirit, but I heard a lot of positive things about the Board of Light and Power. And the general manager here tonight, and I hope that this continues. You know, if we can put Snowmelt, Ryan and Kathy, I think when you handed that invoice back in February, we've gone through a lot of emotions and discussions and things over the last 10 months, but here we are today with resolution. So I'm optimistic. We've got a few other big items to solve. I appreciate the kind words you say about the BLP tonight. And I look forward to that in the future. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Mike. Same right back at you. All right, meeting's adjourned. To cookies.
Yeah.